Hello, everybody. Welcome to the most powerful class that I think I've ever presented. This is going to be a big, beautiful, wonderful thing that I think you're going to want to listen to many, many times. Um, so has anybody ever treated you like you didn't matter? You ever get that feeling? That's a psychic attack. But it doesn't have any impact unless you buy into it. So you're going to understand that psychic attack, reverse alchemy, they're kind of synonymous, because it's reverse alchemy, meaning instead of supporting your process of transformation into a beautiful golden state of higher consciousness, it's leading you toward lead, debasement, devaluation, a belief in your own worthlessness, so that you don't go for those higher callings, those higher possibilities. So the thing to remember as we go through this tonight is that there's really no such thing as psychic attack that comes from anyone else or any other entity but yourself. And as you free yourself from self-attack, you also protect yourself from attack. And again, attack is anything debasing. So I'm going to read a few quotes. We're going to have a very, very powerful alchemical, archangelic clearing process at the end of this evening's presentation. So I want to make sure to reserve enough time for that. There's actually 6 pages of notes that I'll be sending you, and you'll get those this evening. To read, to study, to absorb, to digest. It's really like a little booklet tonight. I put a lot into tonight for some reason. Just felt like I needed to concentrate on it quite a bit. So I'm glad Joan's happy, and I'm happy Joan's happy. Okay, so here's some quotes. Okay, and this all relates to the alchemical process and also the reverse alchemical process. So here's a quote from Wittmann, whom I've quoted many times. Never beg for something or someone you imagine to be outside of yourself for help. Never put yourself in the position of a beggar, for that is a disastrous suggestion to give your psychic nature or your subconscious. Never beg for something or someone you imagine to be outside of yourself for help. Never put yourself in the position of a beggar, but that is a disastrous suggestion to give to yourself. And if you're paying attention to your feelings, when you're begging someone for something, right? Pleading for something, even pleading with a child, and pleading with a 3-year-old, please eat your soup, it gives a suggestion that disempowers you. So that is a form of self-psychic attack, disempowering you. Here's another quote. This is also from Wittmann. Here's an interesting one. It's kind of along similar lines, but different. One will crave the good opinion of others, strive to appear in the best light with the mistaken idea that if many think well of him, he can think well of himself. See? We're going into deeper recognition of motivation, of what's driving you, whether it's something lower, bringing you down, or something higher, lifting you up. I'm going to read that again. One will crave the good opinion of others, strive to appear in the best light, with the mistaken idea that if many think well of him, he can think well of himself. We apply a principle practice where we say, never waste a thought thinking about how someone else thinks about you. It's kind of a similar thing, right? Because when you're imagining someone putting you down, you're actually giving yourself that energy of put down. It's a form of psychic attack. It's reverse alchemy. It's bringing you down to a lower level. It's creating suffering inside of you. So always notice when you're thinking of someone else thinking negatively about you, right? Or when you're striving to do something because you want to appear in a way that they will like or admire, right? It's usually for the unconscious motivation based on a feeling of unworthiness that you're carrying within, trying to compensate by getting someone else to treat you the way you want to see yourself. Now, this is an interesting one. This goes a little deeper. And maybe you've experienced this in your life. Maybe you've had people, try this with you. Um, and this is a quote from William Gray, who did some good writing on the Kabbalah. A deliberate attempt to interfere between man, and again, you can say human, this was written a long time ago, a deliberate attempt to interfere between man and his instinctive growing toward God. That is the real root of evil, whether emanating from other entities or from our own accord in ourselves. A deliberate attempt to interfere between man and his instinctive growing toward God. What is growing toward God? It's growing toward Godhood. It's growing toward what is God? God is the creator. What are you? You are the creator. Right? You are the creator of your experiences, the creator of your destiny with your consciousness. So your growth into that awakening process of identifying yourself as divine, anyone who's interfering with that from a Kabbalistic standpoint, that's the definition of evil. Right? And I remember, going to an ultra-Orthodox Hasidic temple. I was studying with these guys, studying some of the Kabbalah. They have great mysticism, but they also have some rigid perspectives. And I said, I just want to awaken to divine will. He said, you can't do that. You just have to do what the Bible tells you to do. You don't have the capacity to awaken to divine will. Only some of the mystical master rabbis have that ability, and they can tell you what God's will is for you, but you don't have the capacity. William Gray would call that evil. Okay, this one is from Isidore, and we're going to go a little deeper into this. And in the next month's podcast with Greg and I, where we focus on Isidore's work, we're going to talk a lot about general semantics. The one we just recorded that'll be released soon, we talked about functional astrology as Isidore taught astrology. So this one comes from Isidore. So take this in deeply. No matter how much wisdom you learn, as long as you automatically react to words, ideas, and images in the mind, you are a slave to the dark forces of delusion and blind lower drives of destruction. Now, this was Isidore. He writes in a very heavy-handed manner. I'll read it to you again and then explain what it means. Anyone in our culture who does not have a good basic understanding of general semantics. So what is general semantics? General semantics is basically recognizing the difference between words and what you're told and your knowing, what you know. And when people combine words and emotion, they think they know. They believe they know the truth. Did you hear what he did? He went out there and he treated that little kid so badly, he should be thrown in jail. Yeah, let's get him. Nobody saw anything. He heard it from him. He heard it from him. But he's automatically reacting emotionally to words. And when you're reacting automatically to words, you're out of control of your forces. When you're out of control of your forces, something else steps in to control those forces. We'll go further. And the last one, and this is one of my favorites of Paul Foster Case, whose Tarot is what we study. Listen to this closely. What ignorance fears and dreads as a malignant what ignorance fears and dreads as a malignant adversary is really your most potent ally. One of the things we learn about reverse alchemy is it's all about how to reverse the reversal. Welcome, embrace, and delight in your challenges. because those are your golden opportunities for growth. When you can handle a challenge with peace and poise, you can tune into wisdom and make excellent choices. And that's growth. What's the opposite of that? You get a challenge of, oh, I wish this wasn't happening. Oh, I wish it would be different. I wish I could be there instead of here. I would prefer that instead of this. Right? This is always exactly right for you. And the harder it is, the more adversarial it is, the more evil the adversary, the greater your opportunity for growth. And what does growth mean? Handling with peace and poise so you can function wisely instead of reactively. If you're not embracing your challenges, you're resisting your growth. And if you're resisting your growth, you're resisting the fulfillment of your heart's desire, because your heart's desire is to grow Godward. And you're only going to be given the challenges that are exactly right for you. And many, many times as we advance, those challenges come like a perfect storm. They'll hit you. It's called the onslaught. They'll hit you from every side, right? Not just one. And you're like, yes, let me go do the method because I'm freaking out. And you do the method 50 times, and then you're at peace. You pass the test. And now you look at the situation, say, what would be a beautiful way to go through this? What would be a beautiful outcome here? Let me just get still. Let me meditate on card 12 with the tarot, the hanged man. And let me get a sense of the beautiful outcome. And then you get a sense of it. That takes you to the higher realms of consciousness. And then it manifests more beautifully than you could have ever imagined. The other side of your challenge is gold. Your challenges are your great opportunities. And they're going to come. That's card 16 in the tarot, the lightning struck tower. They're going to arrive. But if you notice the beings that are getting thrown out of the lightning struck tower in card 16, which is all alchemical, if you look at it, and we've covered this in different classes, they've outgrown the tower. They're too big for the tower. Right? And so when you get hit with something, you're too big for the comfort zone that you're at. It's time to expand. The universe is like a womb, and you're just being born into a higher level. Okay, so let's take a moment to put this in order. And why am I taking a moment to put it in order? We're going to talk tonight about psychic offense, not just psychic self-defense, psychic offense, right? Now, these are little known secrets, and they're even lesser known practices. Very, very few people know what I'm going to share with you. And maybe like 1% of the people who know it are actually going to practice it religiously in daily life. So psychic offense, order. Do everything. I know I've harped on this so many times. Do everything in an orderly way. Don't just toss things. Place them down consciously, orderly, right? The dark forces come in through chaos. Order is a field of protection. When you're walking from one room to the next, count your steps. Notice how many steps it takes you to go from the toilet to the sink, right? Notice the distance. Notice you've been doing it for how long you've been going from the toilet to the sink. Actually do it consciously this time in an orderly way. Notice how you pick up the soap. Pick it up in an orderly way. Don't just leave it in the sink. Place it back. See, and it's not just like being a parent and being on top of you and all that. No, it's a supernatural protection from the forces of darkness and chaos to enter your life. It will protect you from accidents, from mishaps, from mayhem, and it'll cause things to fall into place for you rather than falling apart. Right? So so Amy is saying she can't find the link for tonight's class. I sent it out at least 5 times, so sorry. If anybody has Amy's info and you want to send it to her link, you can, but okay. You can send her the link. Thank you, Lisa. So, order, right? Now notice, I could easily be pulled off track to cater to Amy at 7:19, right? But that would create chaos. I can feel it. I can feel that it would sort of tear my energy. Can't do it. You can't go out of your way to help another. You can only help people in your own way. But once you go out of your, once you lose your energy, once you're making a choice that lowers your energy, that's reverse alchemy, right? And it can happen. People with the best intentions can make every effort to pull you off of your power path, off of your alchemical process. You love them, but if you resent them, it's because you diverted from your own path. Okay. Now, I made a promise, and I'm going to fulfill the promise in one of the emails that I sent out talking about this class. It's called How to Have an Alchemical Love Affair. And I'm going to touch on this super briefly because it's really the opposite of reverse alchemy. It's the opposite of psychic attack. So I'm going to give you the secret formula right now for how to have an alchemical love affair, right? And that's a love affair that brings out the gold and brings up both people into higher states of harmony and compassion and patience and kindness and supportiveness, right? It's very simple. Treat one another like gold. That's it. That's it. You treat one another like gold. If you treat someone as precious, they become precious. If you treat someone as beautiful, they become beautiful. So there's no place in an alchemical love affair for criticism, for complaining, for accusation, for belittlement. Those are all psychic attacks. Belittlement, sometimes belittlement can come in the form of innocent sarcasm, but has just enough of a little to cause the person who's paying attention to their feelings, who's not repressing their feelings, to feel a little bit smaller, a little bit lower, a little bit less than. Okay? So if you're in a relationship with someone who's not treating you like gold, you got to create distance. If they're treating you like lead, like you don't matter, like you don't count, like you're not totally valuable, like you're not a sacred gift in their lives, you just create a little distance. There is a situation, and this goes back to psychic offense now. There are situations where you have to relate to another as if they don't matter. Okay? In other words, you have to make nothing of that person. And that is when you've identified that individual as a psychic attacker. If they're treating you like you don't matter, you got to respond similarly. Now, it doesn't mean you hold a grudge. Because if you're holding a grudge, you're holding on to a negative vision and you're holding back your own power of love. And you're holding on to a vision of yourself as a victim. See, there's no grudges. There's nothing to forgive when you make nothing of it. But you can't continue to interact with someone who's relating to you in a demeaning, devaluing way. If you do, that's just a reflection of the fact that you relate to yourself that way. Okay. Alchemical elements in reverse. So we have the three basic, they're called the three primes in alchemy, and they're shown in this image here. Right? We have sulfur, mercury, and salt. And as you may remember from previous classes, sulfur represents fire, mercury represents mind, and salt represents the earth. Right? What we call them like salt of the earth, right? Why does salt represent earth? Because it's crystallizing. So what is reverse alchemism? So sulfur is fire, That would be misguided passions, emotions, drives, and hatred. Misguided passions, emotions, drives, and hatred. Right? Those are the reverse alchemical applications of that element, of the element of fire within you. So what do you do about that? You examine it. You notice your passions. Sometimes you might have passion to hurt someone, or a passion to destroy something, right? Or a passion to get back at someone, right? All of those lower your energy, lower your consciousness, your vibration, brings you down to more lead. Then we have the reverse alchemical element of Mercury. Mercury is mind. So that would be negative thinking. What is negative thinking? Thinking about what you don't want to manifest. Remember, the basic rule that we apply when it comes to directing thought is, if I knew without a doubt that the next thought I think is going to manifest, what would I think next? Right? So negative thing and delusion. So delusion is thinking you know what's going on when that's not what's going on. Jumping to false conclusions. Having opinions. Like the Buddha said, have no opinions. Like people say, well, what's your opinion about, what's going on in the world today? I don't know. What do I know? I watch some stuff on TV. Watching television news is like opening a window to look into hell. What's happening in hell today, right? Or one of the alchemical interpretations of global warming is because the earth is moving closer to hell because people are so unbalanced and so unsane and so emotionally charged on TV. Not in my life. It's very rare that I see anybody in any kind of an unhinged, unbalanced way. I turn on TV and that's all everybody is. So you watch how much of that you can take. But there's so much delusion. You believe they know. You don't have to believe anything. The more you believe, the less you know. Just watch. Just examine the facts. See what you do know. Separate what you do know from what you don't know. To clarify what you need to know. Now, all of this process of clarification, which is called anosynthing, which we're going to talk about at some point later, can only be done from a balanced, calm, centered state. There is no truth in an emotionally inturbulated state. So reverse alchemy is going into emotional turbulence. And then salt. So we have the reverse sulfur, misguided passions, emotions, drives, hatred. That's the fire. Misguided reverse mercury, negative thinking and delusion. And salt in reverse. Salt is the earth. Chaotic behavior, right? If you're rushing around, chaotic like this, and moving like this, and I got to get this done, I got to get out the door, right? That's reverse alchemy. You're putting yourself under psychic attack, and you're opening yourself to all the forces and influences of darkness and chaos to come into your life, to gobble up your energy, and maybe even your loved ones, right? So functioning in a chaotic way, physically behaving chaos, violence, right? And being totally materialistic, right? Actually thinking that if you had more money, you could be happier. If you were able to do something that you're not able to afford, you'd be happier. Oh, darn, I can't buy that Maserati, right? Instead of saying, oh, great, can't buy that Maserati. What am I making of the situation? What is my state of consciousness? Am I entering a state of impoverishment and deprivation and loss and lack? Is that what I'm doing with my energy? That's a psychic attack on myself. If I release myself from that, I can live in abundance and freedom and peace. And in my conscience, I could drive any car I want. And it's just a matter of time before that reflects in the outer world. That's mastery. Okay, now we have spent many a time together, as you know, with this diagram of the Kabbalah tree of life. But what we're going to look at now is something, ooh, play Twilight Zone music. We're going to look at the tree of evil to understand the real roots of psychic attack. Okay? So this is a class we're going deep. This is not going to be superficial, metaphysicaling. And this is the real deal. Okay, so we have the 10 spheres on the tree of life, which represents the 10 elements of God or good. Let's see what it looks like in reverse alchemy. So sphere 1 on the tree of life represents divine will. Sphere 1 on the tree of evil represents personal will rules over facts. Like, I don't, someone will show you a more efficient, easier way of doing something. So I don't care. I want to do it my way, even though it's more costly, more painful, takes more time. It does a poorer job, but I want to do it my way because I want to do it my way. Personal will over facts. I don't care what the truth is. And then also discounts the existence or the relevance of divine will, right? So if you look at what is your ultimate urge, when you're centered and you go deep, your ultimate urge in any situation, the way to get centered and clear and focused and aligned, I just want to do what's right. I just want to do what's truly, truly right in this situation. I let go of all my attachments, all my biases, all my prejudices. And I just want to do what's right. So the tree of evil, sphere 1, is discounts the existence of divine will. There is no right way. There's only the way I want to do it. That's the only way that counts. That's the narcissistic way. Okay. Sphere 2 in the tree of life is wisdom. So what's the opposite of wisdom in any given situation? Automatic and unexamined thought, speech, action, and emotional reactions. In other words, when you're in a situation and you have an automatic emotional reaction to it, you've left wisdom. What is wisdom? What's the difference between wisdom and intelligence? You can be intelligent in how to do automotive repair. You can be intelligent in how to create an atomic bomb. You can be intelligent in how to install windows. But wisdom is the intelligence of how to live. How to live in such a way that you're bringing out gold instead of lead, that you're producing the results that you want. So the opposite of wisdom is just automatic emotional reaction, automatically thinking the thoughts that come in, automatic speech. You know, how many people they're having a conversation are really aware what they're saying, what is the relevance of what I'm saying, what's the value of what I'm saying, what's the value of it to the person I'm talking to, how long is it taking, how am I affecting that other person, right? That's unconscious action, right? Just automatically doing what you always do instead of stopping, saying, what's the best way to do this, right? So we practice that when it comes to order. So the next time you're doing some mundane task, like putting silverware into the drawer after you do your taking it out of the dishwasher, notice how you're doing it. Notice how you're placing the fork and placing the knife and placing the spoon. Am I making too much noise? Is there a better way to do this? Right? That's how you bring wisdom in. The third sphere of the Kabbalah tree of life is understanding. Right? Before you respond to something, I want to understand what's really going on. It's also the understanding you get from life experience. You pay attention to what happens, right? And you learn from it. Okay, you did this, you fed the fish, cleaning fluid and they died. Okay, next time I'm going to pay more attention to what I'm doing with my fish, right? I'm able to learn from my experience. But like Isidore's teacher used to say, unconscious experience is like a bald man's comb. It's useless. So what is the opposite of understanding? Having opinions instead of facts, conjecture, speculation, treated as facts. Oh, I know, he would never do that. How do you know? Right? And not learning from experience. So like one of my clients once said, after he killed his fish accidentally by feeding the wrong thing, he said, why would God kill my fish? God didn't kill your fish. You weren't paying attention. Now, at least you didn't blame God. Now, at least you can take better care of your fish. The fourth sphere in the Kabbalah tree of life is called mercy, right? Generosities. So all this tree of evil it's all the essential scaffolding of psychic attack upon ourselves. And when you're exposed to someone who's operating this way, just by their radiance, you're being attacked because you're being influenced to function similarly. Human beings are contagious. And you can spend all day, say, I surround myself with white light, and I call the guardian angels, and Jesus is my savior. And those are nice words, right? And they may have some slight impact on your feeling tone, on the actual radiance. But if you're working with energy, that's like saying, okay, before I put my finger into a socket, an electrical socket, I'm going to say, Jesus is my savior, right? It's the same thing. It's all energy. It's all energy, right? You don't put a Band-Aid on an appendicitis. So you have to become aware. We have to become aware. Isidore would always say, you have to become aware, but we have to be really aware of the BCP. I've talked to some of you about this, the BCP of the person or group you're interacting with. BCP, basic point of consciousness. Are they functioning on the tree of evil or on the tree of life? Not to pass judgment on them, but just to be safe, keeping your energy field safe. So sphere 4 now is mercy. So mercy is the loving kindness of the divine, the gift of abundance, right? The gift of grace, right? Like we have a principle that we practice in the universal principles for having it all. The principle of whatever you can handle gracefully, handle. Whatever you can't handle gracefully, give it to grace to handle. Grace will take care of it, right? But on the tree of evil, what does sphere 4 represent? Being overly passive, overly indulgent, excessively giving and lenient, no boundaries, just kind of blob. Sphere 5, Gevura, on the tree of life, is justice, is severity. What do you have to sever yourself from? We have to set certain limits and boundaries in creation, right? Like spending too much time around a negative transmitter, right? So, or a reverse alchemist. What is a reverse alchemist? They radiate from these one or more of these planes. So what is sphere 5 on the tree of evil? Being overly harsh, overly aggressive, too strict, cruel, withholding, and hating. So we want to recognize this, not to judge people or even ourselves. You're going to see this happening in yourself, to clear it out, to notice it, to shed the light on it so you can let it go within yourself, and to recognize, how am I actually on an energetic level, on an alchemical, spiritual being level? How am I being affected by the energy of the person I'm interacting with? So sphere 6 on the Kabbalah tree of life is beauty. The Hebrew name is Tifereth. And if I had a daughter, I would certainly name her Tifereth, right? But if my son, I don't want him to get hurt and abused, so I called him Gabriel and Aaron. But the point is, so beauty, harmony, that's the center of the tree of life. Maintaining your beautiful, harmonious center. In alchemy and astrology, is symbolized by the symbol of the point in the circle. This is the symbol of beauty. What does it mean? It means just staying centered under any circumstance, just staying centered. Then you have beautiful outcomes and beautiful experiences. It's not like, oh God, I want to go to Hawaii or I want to climb. I want to I want to see the Alps and stuff. That's all fine and nice, but that's going to come to an end. The only true experience of joy and fulfillment and splendor comes from being centered in the now.
All right. So I guess.
Right? Wherever you are, right? It comes from being centered in the now, wherever you are. If you're excited about something, what's going to happen? Well, what is the law of life? We've looked at that when we looked at cycles. What happens if you're going to get excited about something? You're going to get excited about it today. We look at part 10 of the Tarot. You get excited about it today, and then tomorrow, the opposite has to happen. There's two ends of every stick. So if there's something you're reacting to with excitement today, then there's going to be something you react to with disappointment tomorrow. Well, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with being disappointed? Well, the problem with disappointment is it's entirely speculative. It's delusional. It's the tree of evil, sphere 3 of the tree of evil, the opposite of understanding. Because whatever's coming at you is always a golden opportunity. Whether it's a sunny, beautiful day on your picnic or it rains on your picnic, whether you have a class and 100 people show up or nobody shows up, it's a perfect opportunity for you to grow. What does it mean to grow? To grow as an alchemist, to be able to turn whatever's happening into gold, to be able to grow through what's happening, to master your forces through what's happening, so you can experience your center and you can experience the consciousness of total fulfillment and you can manifest something greater from what happened that you didn't like. So that's the problem with excitement. It dooms you to disappointment because the opposite always happens, right? You get excited because this happens, tomorrow that happens. And this and that are always alternating. Just pay attention. And you'll notice the way the cycle works. It goes up today, goes down tomorrow. Today, oh, our relationship is great. Tomorrow, our relationship is a little rocky, right? Both are perfect opportunities to see how you're handling your own forces so you can create what you want in life consistently and stably. So sphere 6, which is beauty in the tree of life, on the tree of evil, it's ugliness. Like when you see a couple like bickering in public and they're just like picking at each other and accusing each other and blaming each other, and then they're going to go home and sleep together, right? That kind of energy, chaotic. Order is beauty. What does the word cosmos mean? It's a Greek word. It means order and beauty, right? So people ask me, am I a Republican? Am I a Democrat? I'm a cosmocrat. I follow order and beauty. I bring order and beauty into my life. Order and beauty. So the opposite is bringing ugliness. You can tell when people are being ugly with each other. Or maybe you walk into an environment and you see the images on the wall and stuff. And it's like, you know what? This is kind of gruesome and garish right? So ugliness, chaotic, conflicting, discordant, isolationist, people who are pushing other people away. Because beauty, balance, and order, it's about harmonizing together. The whole human race is moving toward oneness, but you still see parts of the human race accusing and blaming and hating other parts of the human race. It shows you the human race, by and large, at least on TV, is kind of at a very low level spiritually and alchemically. They haven't embraced the oneness, right? It's the on the tree of evil, sphere 6 also represents being unfair, like trying to create situations where I win, you lose, instead of win-win, instead of really treating people fairly. And it's just about being unbalanced. Unbalanced forces perish in the void. Do you ever hear yourself? I know with me, it happened a lot. talking and you just get on a roll and you can't shut up. It's unbalanced speech. You ever see your mind going, brrrr? That's unbalanced thought. Or you're emotionally reacting, can't immediately settle down. That's unbalanced emotion. So why are we pointing this out? Because just being around these conditions is a form of psychic attack. It's a form of reverse alchemy. It can bring you down if you're not aware of it. If you're aware of it, like Vivian says, whatever you're aware of, you can control. Whatever you're unconscious of controls you. So 7, the Kabbalah tree of life, victory. One of the things it means is that everything that happens is victorious. There's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as defeat. Those are simply concepts that human beings impose on circumstances that are perfect. Never imagine yourself losing. Never imagine yourself failing. Never imagine a situation you don't want to happen, right? But on the tree of evil, 7 is feeling defeated, fearing defeat, despondency, pessimism, feeling victimized or feeling someone else is victimized, being caught up in moody, resentful, angry, right? Have you ever seen anybody who falls into those patterns? Have you ever been anybody who falls into those patterns? Okay. Then 8, which is glory. When you wake up to sphere 8 in Kabbalah, you wake up to the glorious, splendid being you truly are. You wake up to the glorious splendor of creation, how perfect everything is. Even encountering someone on the tree of evil is a perfect opportunity for you to grow, to turn that situation into something that benefits you. But on the tree of evil, what does fear represent? Belief in your inadequacy or someone else's, belief in their own inadequacy, inferiority, belief in inferiority. It has to do with the intellect. Just like sphere 7 is the emotions, sphere 8 is the intellect. So it's belief in inadequacy, inferiority, feeling devalued by yourself or feeling devalued by others. And what always goes along with that is approval seeking. You can tell when someone's trying to win your approval. They're being manipulative. Not necessarily to hurt you, maybe. But whatever it is, when you notice these things, and a lot of times people don't want to look at this stuff. They don't want to look at the dark side. They think that, be like an ostrich, right? Like hiding their head in the sand. But you need to know where you are, who's around you, what's going on. And then the 9th sphere of the tree of life, which is foundation. Yesod in Hebrew, foundation. It's the stability of the cosmic structure, right? It's the permanence of the cosmic structure. The laws, the form is constantly changing, but the laws, they're forever. They're stable. But what does sphere 9 represent on the tree of evil? Someone who's being unstable, unreliable, impatient. They lack stamina, they lack follow through. They're weak-minded and easily influenced. They lack inner strength. Right? So the purpose of this, again, is not to judge someone. It's just to know how to relate to someone. If you have a car and you're driving a car and the car has a flat tire, you don't have to judge the car. You're just going to not drive the car a lot, right? You're going to adapt to the facts of the person that you're dealing with. And you're also going to recognize when we ourselves are succumbing to these lower influences. Again, not to judge ourselves, because if you get into judgment and accusation, that's the tree of evil. It's to free ourselves, right? Like Vivian used to say, and I've quoted it a million times, the biggest obstacle to our growth and development is the need to have a good opinion about ourselves, because we'll be afraid to look at the dark stuff that we fall into, because I'll hate myself or I'll judge myself or I'll be angry at myself. If you see that, that's okay too. That's the next step to get free. And so sphere 10 on the Kabbalah tree of life, it's called Malkuth in Hebrew. It means making or manifesting. It's the physical world as we perceive it through our senses. It's your power to manifest. What does it mean on the tree of evil? Total materialism. Treating women like sexual objects. That's an example of the 10th sphere on the tree of life. That's the problem with pornography. Right? Because you're picking up on if you have to go unconscious to, what are the energies going on there? I mean, is someone on heroin? Is this what's really going on in that situation? What are the energies I'm picking up? Oh no, it's just the visual. That's all that exists. Right? And many of us go through the stage of materialism. Many people come to the spiritual path out of materialistic values because they're struggling financially, and they want to apply spiritual power to make material conditions. That's fine. You'll make them, but it'll blow up. You don't use spiritual power. You're used by spiritual power. And you can recognize what's using you. You can recognize when a lower force is using you or a higher force is using you. So this class is definitely for the advanced, right? I would never go into this like in a first session with someone who hasn't had any experience with this stuff. Okay, so we're going deep, very deep here, because this is what the process truly involves. It's not just a happy day at an amusement park for enlightenment. If you really want to be free, you gotta see all your chains. It's not everybody's ready for that, but you're ready for that. And that's when the real game happens. Okay. Let's pause and get some feedback. Let's start with Patty. Patty the Pisces.
Going through the tree of evil was kind of fun.
That sounds pretty funny.
I know, right? But it's not, I mean, we just putting it in this kind of context, in this kind of order, like if the light side and you have the shadow side. And it's just really interesting the way you're explaining it. Because I'm so used to the one that we've talked about for years,
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, right. That's what that is. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lisa. Lisa Tancredi.
Don't worry, I can't pronounce it either. It doesn't matter. So I actually had a really hard time pronouncing my last name for a year, so I understand that. So
You're just trying to make me feel good.
no, I really,
No.
I had to go and learn how to say my L's, my S's, my Z's, my R's, and my T's. So I didn't want to say anything in my house. So I
Oh,
didn't,
I see. Okay.
I couldn't, there are too many letters in my last name that I could not pronounce.
I love your last name.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. So yeah, this is an amazing list. And I look at it and I go, oh, as you're right, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it and go, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, no, I do that. And it's very humbling. Just sit there and go, oh yeah, I got a little bit of work to do. I like to say, right?
Pull out the root, pull out the weeds. Pull out the
Exactly.
weeds.
Oh my God. Oh, work.
And Joan, Aries Joan.
Well, I agree with what has been said so far, and I love the idea that this is, this tree of evil is the psychic attack, and we do these psychic attacks on ourselves, like that is just kind of like mind blowing that I am creating my own psychic attacks. And it really is like it feels really empowering to understand this, you know? Like I feel like a door just opened up and I'm like, oh, this is really cool because, it gives me a different way of moving through life.
Good,
Yeah, it's
good.
really powerful. I love it.
Now, Julie, are you there, or I see your picture, but I don't know if you're, okay, maybe not. Let's go to Sydney.
Sorry, I was
Oh,
there. I just
okay,
was having trouble unmuting.
okay. How about any
Totally what
feedback?
Joan just said. If that whole concept that those negative thoughts, etc., are a psychic attack on me is really empowering. And I'm going to have to think on that one and work with that. I think for a while, because I think it's really important. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And Sydney?
Have to watch it again.
Okay.
Some of you are more familiar with all of this than me. I'm
Right.
pretty new to it. So, but I can't wait to go through it again.
Good. With the notes, they'll help.
Yeah. And I've taken a lot of notes already, but I've always thought like you can't let go of something without holding it first. So the statement that to be free, you have to see your chains is that resonated with something I already feel. So anyway, thank you. This is fabulous.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, one interesting thing is that sometimes in certain contexts, it's not just called the tree of evil, it's called the tree of death because it represents the self that dies. And maybe we'll talk about that at some point. I have referred to that in different classes, maybe the ones on psychic development when we talked about death and life. And let's go to Norway, where we have lovely Gru actually awake. What time is it there, Gru?
Oh, gee, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
Is
The,
the sun
the
still
va- vampires are out.
out? So how is this landing for you, Gru?
It's it's just in time because I'm right in the middle of creating order out of chaos. And also I'm thinking a lot about this wisdom. But sorry about my V's and my W's.
That's
As a
okay.
Norwegian.
Okay.
And it's like in Ibsen with Peer Gynt, troll, be thyself enough. The whole concept. So yeah, I feel this is really really helpful. But is it also like the real life is also a little bit representative of the chakra system?
Sure. Oh yes.
So yeah, so if you're kind of unstable in the lower chakras, for example, you have more problems with victory and
honor. Yeah.
glory. Yeah.
Yes. Good point. Good point.
Mhm.
And lovely Lydia. How is this landing for you? We haven't seen you for a while.
Because I've been in chaos, Bob. Free. Yeah, it's a great reminder, that because it's easy to know the concepts, but then when you look at the tree, you're like, oh, that's the crap that happens in my life when I'm not being enlightened, So I really needed the reminder. So I really appreciate it.
Good, good. And Zoe Haugo from Norway.
Hello. Yeah, I'm finding yes, I'm really enjoying using this tree as a magnifying glass, looking back on my life that I've just passed from one phase of life and going into the next phase of life. And boy, when I'm looking back with that magnifying glass, oh, through this tree, oh boy, so illuminating.
Okay, all right.
Loving it.
And Lisa, are you there? Lisa Campion, are you? Maybe not. Maybe she stepped away. And Lori, are you there, Lori?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. How is this working for you? How is all this information? I know you're somewhat new to this, I think,
Yeah. Yeah, I am new. So it was a little like I have no idea what you're talking about.
Neither do I.
Huh?
That makes two of us. Just kidding. Just kidding. Well, just let it sink in like seeds, right?
Yeah.
You just let it sink in like seeds, and eventually it blooms the flowers of understanding. You just take it in, whatever it is that you can make sense of, and whatever you can, you just sort of put on the shelf and see how it comes. We're going to go further now, and see how far we can get before we have to do our big ceremony at the end of release. So I'm just going to give you a little list now, and of just examples of what reverse alchemy or psychic attack it feels like, looks like. These are just some examples. So when someone attacks your joyfulness, like I remember when I was a little boy, it was not safe to be happy in my house, right? They wanted me to be more somber and serious. When someone attacks your faith in yourself, they relate to you in a way that seems to undermine your faith in yourself. When someone is just being threatening to hurt you in some way, physically, psychologically, financially, any act of violence is a form of psychic attack, not just on the person who receives the violence, but by anybody who's exposed to it. The energy of it radiates. And always remember this, that the person who's committing the psychic attack, like let's say someone is like mocking you for your joyfulness, which has happened to me, right? They mock you for your joyfulness. The attacker is the one getting the most brunt of the attack. When you're attacking someone else, you're attacking yourself first. You're getting the biggest brunt of it. Sarcasm, we talked about that a little bit. That actually belittles or erodes someone's faith in themselves or sense of value. Those subtle jabs and put downs, maybe a little bit is okay seasoning, but you got to really be able to sense when it's turning the corner a little bit. Blame, condemnation, emotional accusation. You did this to me and you have no right. And who do you think that's a psychic attack. Complaining, right? When we're complaining, we're attacking ourselves because we're not only getting into a negative state, but we're focusing on what we don't want, right? But also, if you're around someone who's complaining, you'll feel that energy and it'll start to have a negative impact. Being disrespectful toward others' feelings, that happens a lot in conversations. Here's a big one, okay? And this is why many times children have to separate from their families, right? And that is holding a negative or limiting image of someone. If someone holds a negative image of you, like something you did yesterday, 50 years ago, it doesn't matter, but they're holding that image and they refer to it and they bring it up and they remember it and they hold it against you, that's a form of psychic attack. Not just directly by how they're bringing it up, but just the fact that they're holding it in mind radiates from their mind. And the fact that it's you they're thinking of emanates through the psychic level and can have an impact on you. Now, remember, if you're fixated on something like that and you say, oh, I know they're talking bad about me. I know they don't like me. I know they're putting me down, right? Now you're attacking yourself, right? You can go into a bathroom, beautiful bathroom. You can admire the tile. Oh, look at the beautiful tiles. Or you can stick your head in the toilet. That's your choice, right? Now, when you're thinking about people putting you down, you're basically sticking your head in the toilet. You could be thinking about God. You could be thinking about flowers. You can be creating your next great romance. But, oh, no, I know it. They're thinking bad about me, right? They don't like me. right? So it's also about what you're tuning into, how you affect yourself. Every unbalanced, impatience and pressure projecting it at you. Now, most children are raised in that context of psychic self-attack, where the parents just, come on, get moving, move it, hurry up, you're going too slow. And there's pressure, right? Or the husband is waiting for his wife to come out the door, and he's steaming and angry and fuming because she's, 1 minute late or 10 minutes late or 10 hours late. Doesn't matter. That fuming and steaming and negative energy that the woman is now absorbing, that can cause serious illness in a woman if she absorbs too much of that. If that kind of stuff is radiated at her, right? Now, you're learning, so you're safe, right? Because you're focused, you know what to focus on, you know how to do psychic self-defense, stay in order, you notice what not to slip into negative thinking towards yourself, not to get critical and complaining towards yourself. You're learning that. Every unbalanced state of thought, emotion, speech, or action coming at you or from you is a form of psychic attack. Individuals or groups holding negative, limiting, victimizing, or villainizing thoughts, right? Like racist people, oh, that other side is terrible, or that side is terrible, or we hate them because of their beliefs, and we hate them because they hate us, and all that negativity. The darkest form is a wicked wish for your undoing. That's that quality, that vengeance, that sphere 5 in the Kabbalah tree of death or Kabbalah tree of evil. Actually wishing for someone else's undoing. And realize that, well, also a person or a group, very important to notice, a person or a group radiating unbalanced emotional grief, anger, fear, lack, addiction, all of that, if you're exposed to that group energy field, that has the same impact on you. Important to remember this, though. The psychic attack is not always conscious. The person doing the attacking doesn't know they're attacking. They're just flipping out. Let's say they're just, traumatized, and they don't realize that the state they're getting into is having a negative impact on everyone around them. Okay. Right now, because of the level of the media, we're pretty much under psychic attack all the time. Human beings. Whether you watch TV or not, it doesn't matter, because enough people are watching, or podcasts or reading, whatever the form is. But there is this, we live in a virtual sea of invisible psychic energies, influences, and patterns. So we're currently going through a planet-wide reverse alchemical movement, a psychic assault right now on the whole human race is what's going on planet-wide. The dark force of anger, vitriol, violence, lies, manipulation, mental manipulation, people telling you what's happening, but they can't prove it, right? Hyper-materialism, everybody wants to go to Dubai, and everybody wants to, own 10 Teslas, and, it's not enough to be a millionaire. Now you got to be a billionaire. Now, not enough to be a billionaire. Now you need to have $125 billion. Now you have to be the first trillionaire. All this unbalanced emotional, and then just the madness of people, the insanity of people getting really emotional and upset about things. The moment you get emotional and upset about something, your energy pattern is completely dissipated. You become channel of chaos. You manifest chaos, bring chaos into your body, can't think straight, can't see straight. You become a helpless victim, manipulated by the forces around you. So this is the miasmic sea, ocean, the psychic sea that all humanity is living in right now because of the manipulation tactics and because of the tremendous focus on all this unbalance and hatred and vitriol and conflict and fear. You know, I get these texts coming to me all the time. Oh, Bob, you should be outraged, you know, from these automatic political text things. Bob, you should be outraged. Bob, I'm really scared this time. Look what they're trying to get me to do. What's there to be afraid of? If you're a divine creator, what do you have to be afraid of? Nothing. In fact, if you see the fear, you're manifesting what you don't want. You do the method, you do the work we're going to do on ourselves to free yourself from those unbalanced, chaotic states that these forces are trying to get you into. Because if they get you afraid, then always remember this principle. Anyone who can make you react is in control of you. And that's what these forces are about. Trying to psychologically enslave masses of people. For what reason? Who knows? Who knows? But that's why even the slight bit of imbalance today sort of opens the door to this rush of negative dark forces coming in. So let's look at the basic anecdote. Let's get into the higher stuff now. So how do you protect yourself? What's the elixir, the alchemical elixir to the reverse alchemical forces in the world today? Number one, don't try to prove yourself to anyone at any time. Be aware of your motivation. Notice when you're just trying to prove yourself to get approval, to get someone to like you, to get someone to think of you a certain way. As soon as you do that, you're opening the door to psychic attack within yourself. Don't argue about anything, ever. If you want to have like a little calm, rational debate, you know, dialogue about something, that's fine. But as soon as it's getting personal or heated or emotional, chaos producing. It's a form of psychic attack. Particularly never argue with someone's version of reality. No matter how opposed to the facts it seems to you, let them have their opinions. Remember, you're not responsible for what other people think. You're only responsible for what you think. Stay aware of your thoughts, your feelings, your speech and actions at all times. Notice what you're doing, how you're doing it. Notice what you're saying, how you're saying it. Notice what you're thinking, how it makes you feel. Notice how you feel. Consciousness is light. The more aware you are, the better you navigate through the psychic minefield. Make sure that you practice staying aware in the present moment, in the now. So you notice what's actually going on. You're not lost in your head of the future or the past. One of the most important things is to get all the rest you need. A tired state is a magnet for negativity. Avoid wasting energy on unnecessary thought, speech, emotion, or action. At all times, maintain a balanced mood. Once you start in that, and you can be helped by that by meditating on Tarot Key 7 in the Tarot, which is the Chariot. And the moods are represented by the crescent moons on his shoulders. Right? Maintain a balance. As soon as your mood goes too high, danger signal. That means it's going to drop too low. As soon as your mood drops too low, negative thinking, negative energies, opening yourself up to reverse alchemy. Stay clear of worry. No worry allowed. When you're worrying, you're thinking about what you don't want to happen. And as soon as you're worrying, you're opening the door to psychic attack. Stay clear of hurry. two of the most important things to bring into life are punctuality and peace. They both go together. If you want things to happen on time in your life, you got to be on time. When you're on time, you're going to find yourself at the right place at the right time. If you're rushing to be on time, or if you're habitually late, you're going to find yourself in situations of chaos, of psychic chaos. And then relate to every challenge as a golden opportunity. Don't judge anything as negative, no matter what it is. If you're having an emotional reaction, clear it with the method, then get centered and ask, what's the opportunity here? How can I grow? How can I grow in wisdom? And that's the whole key to the game. I guess in our next class, we're going to go into conscious abstracting. We're going to go into Korzybski's work that I talked about general semantics a little bit. But remember for now, most importantly, and I know it sounds ridiculously boring and simple and too simple to talk about, the word is not the thing. Just because somebody says something, it doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. It doesn't mean you know what they're talking about, right? People can say stuff. They say, oh, how should I? People always say, well, ask directions. Well, how do I know he knows what he's talking about? Automatically, I'm going to assume the guy standing at the gas station with a paper bag in his hand is going to tell me the right way to go. Right? Ask directions. From who? Right? Well, he looks like he lives here. He looks like he lives here? How do you even come up with he looks like he lives here? How do you know where he lives? Right? He looks like he lives here. Right? And so the word is not the thing. And then the other thing to remember before we go into our big process now is the thing is not a thing. The thing is not a thing. Drew and I talked about this last Friday. The thing is not a thing. Everything that looks like a thing is actually a dynamic energy system. It's protons and neutrons and atoms. It's like a 4th of July sparkler, radiating energy all over the place. It only looks like a solid object to our senses, but it's actually changing all the time. Everything's changing all the time. So when we look at this card in the tarot, card 16, change is always happening. Nothing is as it was. Now, remind yourself that the thing is not a thing. Remind yourself every object you see is the dynamic energy system to help you to start to open your subconscious to read the energies. Cup 1 is not cup 2. Who was holding this cup beforehand? Maybe if you knew who was holding the cup, you wouldn't want to hold the cup because of the energy emanating from it. Right? Everything is changing all the time. Every now is new. There's no such thing as the same old, same old. That's just a state of unconsciousness, of not paying attention to what's happening now. Paying attention to what's happening now is your greatest psychic protection, your greatest form of psychic self-defense. Utilize the 4 elements. Well, I'm going to have to get to that in the next session. We're going to do, we're going to have maybe a part 2 of this a little bit because there's more to follow, but you're going to get it. What you get in the notes, I think you have enough here to work with on your own, but we're going to go through our powerful work with the archangels now as our closing meditation, because I think you have enough data. So you've become familiarized with the reverse alchemical vibrations, the tree of death, the tree of evil. All the negative psychic influences that are coming at us all the time. And that could be coming at you from particular relationships and places that you go. What we're going to do now is to clear it all. We're going to use a process now to go deep within. Now, when we talk about archangels, there's no such thing as seeing an archangel. When you're seeing an archangel, whatever you see as a form, that takes place on the psychic level. That takes place in Yesid, on the formative level. That's just an image. That's just a symbolic representation drawn from your own unconscious that clothes the energy that you can tune into. But at the level of an archangel, that's the level of Bria, creative energy. There's no form. There's no image. There's just energy. It's a very, very high level of divine energy. So you think of the archangels as conduits through which the highest energy in creation flows. So through the archangels, we make connection with the highest, most potent energies. And that's what you're going to open your consciousness up to the best of your ability as we go through this process. So, typically, when you do this on your own, you want to be facing east. And you're going to be turning in a circle, going right. But we're just going to pretend you're facing east right now, okay? So, I want you to face east and close your eyes. And listen to the following. Blessed Archangel Raphael, the healer of God, Archangel of the air, ruler of the mind, guardian of the east, whose color is yellow. Now picture a giant yellow star. I invoke thee. Remove all reverse alchemical negative influences from my being, my energy, my consciousness, my aura, and blow them back on your mighty wind to their source. Facing south. Blessed Archangel Michael, bearer of the divine image that I in my true self express. Archangel of fire, conveyor of the fiery power of divine will, guardian of the south, whose color is red. I invoke thee. Now envision a giant red star, flaming star. Burn away all reverse alchemical negative influences from my being, my energy, my consciousness, my aura, and let your waves of divine heat send them back to their source. Facing west, blessed Archangel Gabriel, bearer of the strength of God, Archangel of water, including the alchemical water of consciousness, guardian of the west, whose color is blue. I invoke thee. Now imagine a giant blue star. Wash away all reverse alchemical negative influences from my being, my energy, my consciousness, my aura, and let your waves of divine water send them back to their source. Facing north, blessed Archangel Ariel, carrier of the lion-hearted Spirit of God, Archangel of the earthly plane, of materialization and manifestation, guardian of the north, whose colors are earthly green and brown. I invoke thee. Now envision a giant green and brown flaming star. Ground away into absolute nothingness all reverse alchemical negative influences from my being, my energy, my consciousness, my aura, and let your avalanche of psychic earth drive them back to their source and keep them contained in their source. Now imagine the 4 luminous archangels surrounding you. In front of you is Archangel Raphael, yellow. To your right is Archangel Michael, red. Behind you is Archangel Gabriel, blue. To your left is Archangel Ariel, green and brown. Now see and feel yourself glowing with pure, divine love, light, and power. And I want to thank you very much for taking this long road into the depths. I trust that you found it beneficial. I send you my love and light. So glad that you've been able to join us, and hope to see you all next month for our next class in alchemy. Thank you.